Hello everyone, it's Robin the Delta Crafter, and I want to thank you for joining me for another video on my YouTube channel. Today I am super excited to be sharing with you some creations that I've made using the May 2022 My Monthly Hero kit from Hero Arts. As soon as I saw all the pictures of this kit on Instagram, I knew that I was going to have to pick it up. It's such an adorable kit, and all the add-ons are fabulous too. So I'm going to be using pieces of the kit as well as a couple of the add-ons for this card that I'm just showing you right here. So let's talk about what I'm going to be using. So these are the Kitchen Crocs Fancy Dies. I'm also going to be using the Kitchen Tools Fancy Dies. I love all the little kitchen accessories in this die set. I'm going to be using a couple of pieces from the actual My Monthly Hero kit. So this is the 4x6 stamp set that's included in the kit. And then I'm also using this background cling stamp that is used to make the tile backsplash. I'm going to be using the Buffalo Plaid background stamp, also from Hero Arts. Some Versamark ink. Some Hero Arts Pool Party Reactive ink, a sponge dauber with the foam dome applicator, and some white embossing powder. And I'm going to be making my card panel on some Nina Classic Crest Solar White and 80-pound weight cardstock. So I've got a couple of pieces of that here. I'm actually only going to be using one. Well, actually two. Well, 1.5 really. And then I have a couple of other accessories that I'm going to be using that I'll show you later on. So now let's get into making our background. The first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to ink blend a background using this Pool Party Reactive ink from Hero Arts. If you've never used the reactive inks from Hero Arts, these are hybrid inks that react to water. So you can spritz them and sprinkle them with water and they will have a reaction and create little water spots and droplets on them. But I'm not going to be doing that today. I just love this particular color and I thought it would be great to use as the background for my backsplash. So you can see I'm laying down a decent amount of color, but I'm not coloring the whole entire panel. I'm leaving the bottom part white because I have, I'm going to use that buffalo check stamp to go over that. Off camera, I went ahead and die cut out the largest crock from the Kitchen Crock set, and I die cut and assembled many of the kitchen tools pieces. So the message or the sentiment for this card is actually going to be stamped on the crock. So here I am setting up the crock in my Misty, and I'm going to be using one of the sentiments from that 4x6 stamp set that's included in the May 2022 My Monthly Hero kit. I'm going to go with Have a Delicious Day, which is up there at the top left. So I'm going to go ahead and grab that from my stamp set and place it in my Misty. And I'm going to stamp that with some VersaFine Onyx Black ink. I'm going to stamp that onto my crock, and that's going to be the sentiment for the card. I love using the VersaFine Onyx Black ink because it is always so crisp and clean, and it never disappoints me. So now that I've got my crock stamped, it's now time to start working on all the little utensils and tools that'll be going inside my crock. You can kind of see it there a little bit. The crock automatically cuts a little slit in the top so that you may slide things down into the crock, but you'll see that a little bit better later on. To color the different kitchen utensils, I'm going to be using alcohol markers. Now, alcohol markers are not a medium that I usually reach for, but I'm challenging myself to go beyond my usual go-to items and to do something that I don't do often because I really am not that well versed on how to use alcohol markers. So I'm going to speed up this coloring and put some music on and let you guys watch how I color these utensils. So now I'm going to bring in some cool gray tones, and I'm going to create a marble effect on the rolling pin, and I'm going to add some shading to the crock. So now let's take a closer look at all of these pieces that I have used alcohol markers on. I really do like the way the rolling pin came together. I think it looks so cute, and I like the shading that was added to the crock. I'm really proud of how these pieces came together, considering I don't have much experience using alcohol markers. That wooden spoon looks so cute, and it's going to look even better when I get it inside the crock. So let's go ahead and create the background for our main image. So what I'm going for is kind of a tile, subway tile background or backsplash. So I'm going to be using the background stamp that came as a part of the My Monthly Hero kit for May 2022. This is a fantastic and versatile stamp that can be used in many different ways. I see myself using that quite often in the future. So I'm bringing in that panel that I inked up previously with that Hero Arts Reactive ink, and I'm placing that on top of my stamp so I can make sure that I get a good coverage of the stamp. I put a little bit of removable adhesive on the back, and I'm closing my MISTI onto my stamp in order to secure my inked up panel exactly where I want it to be. Before I apply the embossing ink, I'm going to hit my panel with my Rabbit Hole Designs Cottontail powder tool just to make sure that I don't have any embossing powder sticking where I don't want it to be. So I'm covering my whole panel with that Cottontail tool, and now I'm going to ink up my stamp using the Versamark embossing ink. This is a clear sticky ink that's going to allow my white embossing powder to stick to it. And so what I'm going to be doing is creating the grout lines for my tile using the white embossing powder. So I'm going to close the door of my MISTI and rub the back of it to make sure I get great coverage with this stamp, because this is a pretty large stamp. And even though I'm using my MISTI and I can stamp more than once, I still want to rub the back of it to make sure that when I am stamping, I'm getting great coverage with the stamp. So here I am stamping one more time, because the ink is clear and you can't always see what spots you missed. So it's good to give it a second stamp just to make sure that you got the coverage that you want. So now that the image is stamped, I'm going to take the panel and cover it in the white embossing powder. And you can see there how good of a coverage I was able to get with that Versamark ink. So I'm going to heat up this embossing powder and allow it to melt, and it's going to create the grout lines for my tile backsplash. So off camera, I went ahead and used that buffalo check background stamp and some red ink, and I was able to create a tablecloth that I'm going to adhere to the bottom of the stamp. This is the reason why I didn't necessarily need to ink all the way to the bottom, because I knew I was going to have this buffalo check serving as a tablecloth at the bottom of the card. So the buffalo check is a little bit larger than my card panel, which, by the way, I did go ahead and cut down, trim down a little bit off camera. But I'm going to flip this card over and trim the buffalo check so that it matches and aligns with the size of my background panel. So that's what I'm about to do here. And I'm just trimming it with some regular old scissors and making sure that everything fits perfectly. So now that we've got our tablecloth and our backsplash on the card panel, now it's time to assemble the card. So I'm kind of placing my crock where I think I want it to be. And now this is where you can really see that slit that is cut from the die in the crock. So I'm going to add some liquid adhesive to the back of my crock, because once I put it down and get it in place, that's exactly where I'm going to want it to be. And then I'm going to arrange all of the utensils in the crock. So I'm adhering this crock down to the card panel, and then I'm going to start placing the utensils in the crock to kind of see where I want them to be. By the way, I did color in the handles of the utensils as well. Some of them are black, so like the whisk and the spatula, the handles I colored in with my black alcohol marker. And then the other ones, like I was able to use some silver metallic paper on them to get them to look as realistic as possible. So I got all my pieces and I'm just sticking those into the crock, kind of figuring out what's a good balance between all the different parts and pieces and the coloring and the elements that I have here. So now that I have my arrangement exactly like I want it to be, I'm going to bring in my Barely Arts glue, because I like the fact that this has a fine tip nozzle on it, and that's going to allow me to put some adhesive on the back of all the kitchen utensils and secure those to the background panel. So once I've gotten that adhesive, that liquid adhesive on there, I put an acrylic block on top of the utensils to make sure that there's a little weight to make sure they all secure nicely to the card panel. Now it's time to add the rolling pin, and I knew I wanted to leave the rolling pin out of the crock because of all the detail that I've added to the rolling pin. So I'm going to pop that rolling pin up with some foam tape, and I'm going to add that to the card panel and place that on the buffalo check tablecloth. So I'm bringing in my tweezers so that I can get good arrangement, and I'm going to lay it down just a little bit askew so it looks like it's tilted and laying across the tablecloth there. Press that down and secure that to the card panel, and that will complete all the decorations that need to be applied to the front of this panel. I absolutely love the way this came together. So now it's time to secure that decorated panel to the card base. And for my card base, I'm using Accent Opaque 120-pound weight cardstock. This is a great heavyweight cardstock that can stand up to a card like this that has several elements on it which add weight and would cause a lighter weight cardstock to buckle and not be able to stand up correctly. And with that, this card is complete. I want to thank you for joining me for another video on my YouTube channel. I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, make sure you give it a thumbs up and that you could click the subscribe button to join the Delta Crafter family. Also, make sure you hit the bell to be notified of when I post new videos. All of the products that I used today will be listed and linked on my blog, thedeltacrafter.com. Until next time, everyone, enjoy!